Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very, very happy to be here. Um, as mentioned, I'm the director of BiblioTech. BiblioTech, all digital public library in San Antonio, Texas, in Bexar County, Texas. We were started in 2013 as a solution to what was a growing problem in our area. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Bexar County, we're an urban county, so approximately 1.5 to 1.7 million people live in the city of San Antonio. The rest of the county, maybe between 5 and 600,000 people, live in unincorporated areas or one of 26 suburban cities. And the city of, or Bexar County has contributed to the city of San Antonio for public library services since, I believe, 1938. But what was happening is we were seeing larger numbers of people moving out to the perimeter of the county, moving farther and farther away. So our funding for public libraries was not going as far as it once had. So our county judge, for those of you unfamiliar with that, it's sort of like the county equivalent of the mayor or the governor, had an idea to provide library services that would not be confined by space. And that meant putting all of our library resources and materials in the cloud. It was kind of, it was a bold move for 2013. And, but we recognized that this was going to be the way of the future. Not only that, but if we were going to provide an all digital public library, we needed to provide a means for people to access that. You know, people that talk about digital inclusion often talk about connectivity, they talk about access, they talk about devices, and they talk about education. Those are the three pillars really that BiblioTech is founded on: education, resources, and devices. Because all of those three things provide for digital inclusion. So we knew that we needed to have at least some access point where people could get those things. For people that don't have discretionary income to afford a device, they don't have discretionary income to maybe pay for an internet service or a broadband service. And they just need a place to be able to get those things. We created small branch libraries. Our first branch library was located in a very economically challenged area of the city, where at that time in 2013, it was estimated that up to 75% of the population did not have access to a broadband connection. So we created a small branch library, obviously about the third of the size of a traditional branch library, because we don't need room for stacks and stacks of books. But it is an access point for Wi-Fi, for devices where we could download material and people could check them out just the way they check out a book. And again, this was in an economically challenged area of the city. So we have that branch. The following 2 years later, we opened up another branch in public housing, in a new public housing development. This one was smaller still, only 2,300 square feet of space, but it co-located the public library in public housing. So it was really a life-changing opportunity for people in those developments. We followed up again in 2017 with another branch in public housing. So right now we are in that sort of expansion mode. But again, our libraries are small. The problem with having branch libraries like that is that you're still looking at a way to provide connectivity that is based on a location for people. Bexar County recognized that that's not a permanent solution. In addition to our branches circulating devices, tablets for people to access materials, 2017, we also started circulating hotspots. That was huge. And it was life-changing for a lot of people. The problem is, and I have a love-hate relationship with hotspots, they provide an immediate solution. However, when we're talking about the more rural areas of the county where there might not be infrastructure, there might not be service providers, those hotspots still don't do any good. Still, we knew that they were important because they were being checked out constantly. When the pandemic hit, we recognized that we had to look for a more permanent solution for digital inclusion. Next slide, please. So we partnered with Southwest Research Institute, and we looked to establish a pilot program. We would look to them to create and design and engineer a pilot program that could provide digital access on a more permanent level for up to 100 disadvantaged students in rural areas of the county within Southwest Independent School District. And we wanted this to also serve as a proof of concept to see how much this would cost, whether we could make this work, and whether we could expand it to other disengaged areas of the county. Next slide, please. So one of the reasons we chose Southwest Independent School District is because it has one of the lowest rates. The 7 zip codes in that school district are among the lowest rates of broadband connectivity. The city average is 19% of residents that have no access. Within these 7 zip codes, that number is 32%. So we are 13% to the good of the no access, or to the bad, as I like to put it. So that's why this area was selected. You know, not only is there no infrastructure there, but many of the residents also are in that position of being economically challenged. So even if there were enough service providers there, these residents probably couldn't afford them. Next slide, please. So Southwest Research Institute, in partnership with Nokia and BiblioTech and some other partners, the school district itself, we came up with a design overview to create a private LTE network using a microwave short haul, or a short haul microwave, and connection to the homes. This runs through the schools, the school districts, service, so it replicates the experience that the students would be getting if they were in school, only we're delivering it to their home. This sort of just shows you the pathway and the equipment involved and how it works. We've got the NDEC that's hosted at the school itself, and the end nodes and the small cells that are located on a water tower near the school. Next slide, please. Again, this shows you the data path flow from the water tower to the school, and then the microwave short haul that carries it, and then from the water tower to the homes. Next slide, please. This is just some images of the equipment, the small cell and the short haul. That's the water tower. I want to move forward just a little bit because I want to tell you about some of the things what we've learned from this experience working in rural areas. Next slide, please. These are the home installations. You know, you can see the beacons there on the roof and on the side of the house. The MiFi that's installed in the home is over on the right. Next slide, please. This sort of gives you, unfortunately, this is very small and it's very difficult to read, but this is a report of the metrics that we get monitoring the devices in the homes. And we can see, for example, the upload speed, the download speed. We can also get more granular, and we can see, for example, if there are 4 students in a home or multiple students in a home, we can see student number 1 is using X amount of data, student number 2 is using X amount of data. So we can really get a feel. We can also get a feel for if the device hasn't been turned on at all. And then we can reach out to those folks and find out, you know, what's going on. Why are you not using it? Do you have another solution at home? Are you uncomfortable? Was there something with did you get bumped offline and didn't bother to make the phone call to get hooked back up again, etc.? Is your student just not doing homework? Sometimes that's going on too. Next slide, please. One of the things I want to talk a little bit about are the human challenges involved in this project. I think, we used CARES funding for this project, so we wanted to stand it up pretty quickly. We needed money to be spent by the end of December. If we had had more time, we would have done a 3 or 4 month education campaign. And we would have been able to reach out to all of those families in the school district and really do a thorough campaign explaining what we were doing, why we were doing it, that it wasn't going to cost them any money. There wasn't need to be a lot of suspicion about that. We have been fortunate that the school district has worked very closely with us and has communicated and been responsible for a lot of that messaging. However, there just was not enough time. So we're playing catch up in terms of getting students enrolled. The other thing is that we are looking at folks that just have a certain amount of what I refer to as technology dis-ease. They aren't, they aren't comfortable. We have people going in, technicians going in to set up their devices for them, to set up the ODU for them. But if something happens and for whatever reason they get knocked off, they are not comfortable even touching the equipment to maybe look for the password to get back online again. There are a lot of, they're afraid they're going to break it. They're afraid something's going to happen. So there's a lot of communication that needs to be done. Not to mention it has to be done in English and Spanish. Many of our residents are Spanish dominant, or maybe not even bilingual at all. So, as I said, communication has been critical. The other thing we learned in this area of the county is that many people are living in substandard housing. We didn't necessarily plan to put the beacons on masts, but what we found were a lot of the houses only have a roof line of about 8 feet. They don't have the standard 11-foot roof. So our small cell on the water tower is literally beaming across their house. They are just never, the signal is shooting across the house. So we've had to put the beacons on masts or any kind of vertical asset that we can find that's near the house. So that's been a real challenge for us. That tells you, I think, that the issue of connectivity is greater, I think, than just making sure we have infrastructure, making sure we have connection capability. We've got a whole economic factor of when we look at the big picture of connectivity, we have to look at those factors that keep people impoverished. And we have to help provide that solution as well. The pandemic has been a big challenge. We haven't been able to get into people's homes or make contact with people to do the installations because they don't want to let people in their homes. Somebody's sick, they're afraid of spreading disease, they're afraid of all kinds of things. And many of you have heard recently, last month, Texas suffered a tremendous, unprecedented storm, and that set everything way, way back. So we are behind schedule. Next slide, please. At this point, we had hoped to have all 100 of our students connected. Right now, we have a total of 62 connected. We have a list of an alternative list of students that we can move forward with, but it's going to take some time. So we're not there yet. We will get there. And next slide, please. So what we're looking forward to in the next 30 days is continuing with the installations. I have no doubt that we will make our 101 students. We are looking at the final report for recommendations for how we can move forward. And we're going to be extending our pilot through the end of the calendar year so we can get some really good data collection to inform our decision about how we're going to move forward. And that's really, that's our project in a nutshell.